Let's start the show. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience, and I've continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020. But enough of me. I'm here for you. On today's episode of the FB Show, we are going to continue our Week 1 recaps. The games have come and gone, and is a lot to talk about in terms of fantasy football purposes. In this video in particular, we are going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington football team. So if you are excited for this game recap, be sure to hit that like button down below, like an open receiver downfield Patrick Mahomes style, and then you can also smash that subscribe button as well, like a power running back up the middle so that you never miss a video from me. And last but not least, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. A lot of content is popping on over at those places. But you already know how we do these highlights. Let's just jump right into it, shall we? Alright. The Philadelphia Eagles taking on the newly rebranded Washington football team at FedEx Field in D.C. Here we go. First quarter, Carson Wentz, play action to Boston Scott. He finds his main target, Zach Ertz, for the touchdown there. Then we go fast forward just a little bit longer in that first quarter. 5 minutes to go, and he's going to air it out deep to Jalen Reagor, the rookie who we weren't sure if he was going to play. He suffered a dislocated shoulder just a few weeks ago, but we saw what he could do on that play there. Just a little glimpse of greatness. Later on in the second quarter, the other tight end gets involved. Dallas Goedert, unbelievable game from him. More on him in just a little bit. But then the Washington football team comes storming back. In the second quarter, Logan Thomas, touchdown run. Let's fast forward to the third. Peyton Barber, not one, but 2 touchdowns. Another one coming on in the fourth. And that's going to do it for the Washington football team. They end up defeating the Philadelphia Eagles 27-17. 27 unanswered points by Washington. Just an unbelievable performance and bounce back win, come from behind win by them. They showed a lot of resilience in this game. Carson Wentz, big story here. He did not play well whatsoever. 42 attempts, 24 completions, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a fumble. He only finished with 13 fantasy points. It was not pretty for Wentz this game, and he had so much opportunity to really bury in a Washington defense that was questionable. We knew they were going to be decent, but we weren't sure how good they were going to be. Boston Scott only had 9 carries, 2 receptions, 54 total yards. He left the game with an injury. Dallas Goedert, what a game from the tight end. 8 receptions on 9 targets, 101 yards, and a score. And of course, we just saw Zach Ertz in that montage as well. 7 targets, 3 receptions for 18 yards, and a score. Miles Sanders did not play this game for the Eagles. That's nothing new for you guys who are watching. But then with the Washington football team, Dwayne Haskins looked all right. He played fine. 17 completions on 31 pass attempts, 178 yards, and a touchdown. The big story here is Peyton Barber had 17 carries for 29 yards and 2 scores. Terry McLaurin, 7 targets, 5 receptions for 61 yards. And Logan Thomas, their tight end, who's been a deep sleeper in some leagues, 8 targets, 4 receptions, 37 yards, and a touchdown. Let's talk about Antonio Gibson here just a second, because he's obviously a big name with a lot of off-season hype, from myself included. He had 9 carries, 2 receptions for 44 yards. All right, let's shift over to the main screen here. Let's chop this up a little bit. The big story from this game, well, we got a few. One is Carson Wentz. Wentz did not look well. This was an opportunity for him to come through and light the league on fire again, right? I talked up Carson Wentz this offseason. I believe he has the weapons to make things happen, and he just didn't for some reason. The Eagles started off this game really hot. They played well in the first quarter. We saw the tight ends get involved really early, but everything just kind of came to a steady halt. Once the Washington defense really got set, the game really started turning, and Washington found their stride on offense as well. And it really was kind of a game of 2 halves for this matchup. So Wentz struggled. Boston Scott was fine in the opportunity that he did get, but then once again he did leave the game with that injury, and that obviously was disappointing because I know a lot of people started Boston Scott because Miles Sanders was out. So that is a bit unfortunate. We never like injuries around here, but it's kind of part of the game. As far as the receiving options go, this was something. Oh boy. Deshaun Jackson had 7 targets, 2 receptions for 46 yards. Meh. For all the hype that we talked about week 1, Deshaun Jackson, and I say we because I was part of it too, as well as some other fantasy analysts, we were like, if you need a swing for the fences play, Deshaun Jackson might be that guy. Right, Deshaun Jackson week 1, it's a marriage made in heaven. And he came out and did literally nothing. But it's fine. It's okay. Jalen Reagor only had 4 targets. He only had that 155-yard bomb, which is still just like really encouraging because he did separate his shoulder literally 2 weeks ago and is out here playing now. So like him being active, I was getting text from somebody earlier, and it was just like, how did Jalen Reagor go from missing a month to all of a sudden being able to play in week 1? I'm like, I don't know. It's the same thing with Mike Williams for the Chargers. I think they had same injuries, or was Mike Williams in AC joints? But I think they both separated their shoulders. Same thing with him. Like, they injured their shoulders around the same time and are both playing now, and it's like, this doesn't make any sense. But regardless, the other story here really is the tight ends. Like, oh my goodness. Right, we knew that Philadelphia ran a lot of tight end sets and that the tight end is the vocal point of their offense. We know Wentz loves to throw to them. But like, Dallas Goedert, what a game. What a game from him. Again, 9 targets, 8 catches, 101 yards, and that deep touchdown. Like, he balled out. And I think what's really interesting, and this is the reason why I don't like Zach Ertz, is because even Ertz had 7 targets, but when you're running when you're running either 12 personnel where you have both of them on the field at the same time, or you're just giving Goedert snaps in place of Ertz, it limits what Ertz can do. And I was facing Zach Ertz this week, right? And part of me was like, oh boy, he has Zach Ertz. But then the other part of me is like, wait, they run 2 tight end sets. Goddard's going to be involved, and Goedert had the better game. So what are you supposed to do as a Zach Ertz owner if games like this happen? Now, Ertz finished with 9 points, which is fine for the tight end, but Goedert put up 20. And that's got to be so frustrating if you own Zach Ertz, because you know what Zach Ertz could do. But they have this other really great tight end that is involved and just eats up at Zach Ertz's volume. It's wild. It's wild. Do you go out and get Dallas Goedert for your roster? Because he's probably on the waiver wire right now. I would lean no. And the reason why I would lean no, again, it's the same reason as why I don't like Zach Ertz. You just have these 2 guys and they're going to clash with each other and eat into each other's value. So I like the talent of Goedert, but I don't think I'm going to pick him up, because why would you take a tight end with a limited ceiling? Because he has another player at the same position competing for him, especially when we only start one of them in fantasy. Just something to think about. But then, moving over to Washington here, not a whole lot to say about Dwayne Haskins. He was fine. You probably weren't starting him anyway, so we're just going to bypass him. The big story here, though, yet again, though, is Peyton Barber, 17 carries, Antonio Gibson, 9. Holy shit. I said it. I said I was not comfortable starting Antonio Gibson this week, so shout out to me. But also, expecting Peyton Barber to get 17 carries, I don't think anybody saw that coming. Peyton Barber was getting some of the goal line work as well. I know that Gibson had a few goal line snaps, but he wasn't able to get in the end zone. But I think this is something to note. And I'm only going to bring this up because I don't know if it's actually sustainable. Peyton Barber had those 17 carries, but he only had 29 rushing yards. That's 1.7 yards per carry. That's not good by any means. And the only reason why he was fantasy relevant is because he got those 2 goal line touchdowns, which could be a coin flip. Maybe 1 week it's Barber, maybe 1 week it's Gibson. But what this did, in all actuality, was just really pump the brakes on Gibson and what you could do with him. He only had those 2 receptions and 2 targets in the receiving game, and that was something where we were expecting him to be the focal point of. But with Gibson, as far as carry goes, and in terms of his usage in the backfield, yes, he had 9 carries, but he averaged 4 yards per carry, so he was better than Barber in that sense. And he did have a 20-yard run that I tried to look for the highlight, and I couldn't find it. It's like it magically just disappeared, like it didn't happen, but it absolutely did. So unfortunately, I did not have that in the highlights, but Gibson did have a nice 20-yard run. As far as the receiving options go in Washington, Terry McLaurin, 7 targets, 5 receptions for 61 yards. McLaurin was fine for you. You would like to see him get in the end zone a little bit, but what can you do? This is a team that is going to be a bit sporadic, I think, in terms of offensive production. Logan Thomas, as I mentioned, that deep sleeper at the tight end position. If you are in a deeper league, he's the one that caught that touchdown from Dwayne Haskins. And then Steven Sims. This was a guy that was briefly mentioned a few times this offseason by a few different people. But for me, I was really kind of waiting to see what this offense looked like, whether it was Antonio Gibson being the number 2 option or just who was going to really step up and fulfill that role. Steve Sims had three catches on 3 targets for 50 yards. Nothing world-burning by any means, but he was a bit involved and he was getting targeted. So just something to keep in mind going forward. Again, I don't know how often you're going to end up starting the number 2 option for the Washington football team. But if you are in a deeper league, maybe you're in a 14-team league, he's just a guy that I would just kind of keep an eye on. Because if he is getting those slot targets, he could prove to be very valuable, depending on how Dwayne Haskins progresses in year 2. Is there anything else here? I don't think so. I think that's it. We covered everything. That was pretty quick. We're 11 minutes in. We're going to wrap it up here. So thank you so much for watching this game preview, or this game recap, this game preview. This game recap. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. Let me know who you had playing in this matchup. I'd love to hear what your fantasy outcomes were. You can also hit that subscribe button down below so that you never miss a video from me. And for all sorts of fantasy football content. And last but not least, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. I'm going to get out of here. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever. I will see you in the next video. I'm out. Later.